Welcome back to Extraordinary Drummer Show. As you know, I'm your host, Cheron Moore. I'm having a great time today. I've done at least 2 or 3 interviews today, but right now, I got a guy on the phone. I'm gonna tell y'all right away, okay? And I hope you don't mind me saying this. He's a beast on drums, man. He's a beast on drums. This guy beats up a drum kit. I mean, the drum kit is going, and I love him. Been knowing him for years and years and years. Upstanding cat. Help me say hello, if you will. Hey, Fogle.
Hey, y'all. How's everybody doing?
Oh, hey, man. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Oh, doing well, man. Just trying to stay alive and just stay healthy, stay prayed up, while all this stuff is going on and everything.
I feel you, man. Did I say the last name right?
Fogle, absolutely.
Fogle. Okay, I want to make sure. I was kind of nervous saying. I was like, that's kind of nervous saying.
Oh, don't worry about it, man. We've known each other for too long, man.
Thanks for being on the show, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, man. I'm honored. I really am.
I always wanted you on this show, man. I feel a slight, I hope you don't mind me saying, I feel a slight connection because we're from the kind of sort of I was over in the Jersey City area, but you was over in like the East Orange or Newark area. Is that right?
Well, actually, I was doing a lot of gigs over in East Orange and Newark and stuff like that. But for the most part, I was in Bergen County because I was in Teaneck when I was living, I was living in Teaneck and going down to the Peppermint Lounge, living in Teaneck, going down to Bogies and stuff like that.
You was traveling.
A little bit, New York, Connecticut, Jersey gigs.
How'd you get started playing drums, man?
Wow. That is, I tell you honestly, that is a great question, and I always love sharing this story. I started late because you know how most of our friends and most of our associates, they started like 3 years old, 4 years old in the church, 5 years old in the church, and then they've been playing for 30, 40 years or whatever. I started kind of late. I started at like age 15. And basically, one night, I was hanging out with a couple of friends of mine, and his older brother had decided since we were cool enough, he got us, now don't tell nobody, but at age 15, he got us some beer. And so, we thought we were just big stuff now because, 2 whole beers a piece. So we moving and grooving now. We grown. So I paced myself, and over the course of a couple hours, I drank those 2 beers, and I had to go and lay down because it was a little overwhelming for me. So I ended up going into my friend's bedroom and laying down on his bed, but that didn't last for very long because right next to the bed, he had a drum set sitting right there next to the bed. So I said to myself, let me sit down, let me pick up the sticks, and let me see what I can do differently with each limb. And as a result, it ended up coming out to be a kind of broken version of the disco beat. But it was still, enough to where I fell in love. I was head over heels. The next day, I was like, Dad, can I have a drum set? Dad, can I have a drum set? Dad, can I have a drum set? He said, boy, you need to go somewhere with that nonsense. So I waited about 10 minutes, and about 15 minutes passed, and I went back to him again. Dad, can I have a drum set? Dad, can I have a drum set? Dad, can I have a drum set? He's like, are you serious about this? And I was like, yeah, Dad. Rock and roll. Let's go. Rock and roll. I want a drum set, Dad. Come on. I want a drum set. He's like, well, do any of your friends have a drum set? Because I'm not going out to the store to buy you a $900 drum set and find out that you're only interested in playing with the box. So I said, yeah, I got a couple friends that have drum sets for sale, but then he ended up going with one of my friends who had a kit. It wasn't even a full kit. He had a kit that was like, it cost $35, and it was a kick drum and a rack tom that was mounted on top of the kick drum. And then there was a rod that had a cymbal on it for like the cymbal stand was a rod. And the cymbal that was on it, like, how you hit a cymbal and it's supposed to go, the cymbal, when you hit it, it went, bam, bam. So, and I'll never forget that sound. But I wore that tom and that kick drum. I went around to the thrift shop around the corner, from where I was living. We were in Teaneck at the time. Went around the corner, and there was a Ludwig Speed King pedal and a snare drum in the window. And the woman wanted $35 for both of those. So I bought those, and I ended up having a snare drum with no snare stand. So I used to take a chair and put the snare on the chair and had another chair that I would sit on. So I would sit on the chair, play the snare on the chair, have a rack tom, and then have this one cymbal that just went bam every time you hit it. So my dad heard me just absolutely wearing this drum kit out. I mean, I just did everything that I could just to try as best as I could to come up with a beat, come up with a fill, and come up with a crash. So he was like, well, I see you're making a little bit of progress. And I was like, well, Dad, I got another friend of mine that's got another drum set because I can't play this drum set anymore. It's not going to last too long. He's like, really? He said, well, he says, I said, yes, a lot of drums, a lot of cymbals, a lot of stands. It has all the hardware and everything like that. It was like 2 or 3 bass drums, had a couple of snare drums, had a bunch of cymbals, a bunch of rack toms, a couple of floor toms and everything. So he was like, well, how much does your friend want for the drum kit? And I said, he wants $400 for everything. My dad turned and looked at me, and without even batting an eye, he said, well, I suggest you go out and get yourself a job to raise that $400 so you can get the drum set. And I was like, Pop, you not going to help? I mean, all right, fine, no problem. So that week, I went out and I got myself a job working at a telemarketing agency, calling, asking for phone numbers from information from different parts of the country. So about 6 to 8 weeks pass, and it's one Saturday morning, and my dad says, so you still saving up for your drum set? I said, yes, I am. He says, well, how much do you have saved up for the drum set? I said, I'm halfway there. I got $200. So I figured another 2 months later, I have the other $200. So he kind of does one of those look up in the air kind of thought process things, like one of these, you know, one of those. And he said, $200, huh? And I said, yeah, and in another 2 months, I'm going to have the other $200. He said, he paused and he said, call your friend. Let's go get that drum set.
Woo!
Well, I tell you, in high school, I mean, I was playing trombone in junior high school.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so by the time I got to high school, I was still playing trombone, but I was also playing drums now because I started like around age 15. So in high school, I got asked to be a part of this band. It was an avant-garde, like rock fusion. We were listening to everything and trying to play everything. My first gig playing drums was with Regina Bell, and that's how you and I met. You know, yep. Yes,
Proud
indeed.
of her, man. So proud of her.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Because she graduated Rutgers, and was singing with the Manhattans,
right?
Like on weekends and stuff. So when she graduated Rutgers, she went straight into being a feature of theirs in the middle of their show. And at the time, Columbia Records came to check out one of their shows and heard her sing. And they were ready to sign her on the spot. And they were like, in order for us to sign you, in order for you to do this record, now that you have this record out and it's selling, we need you to put a band together. So she remembered me from doing gigs around Rutgers and playing in the Rutgers Jazz Band. And she was a vocal feature in the Rutgers Jazz Band. So she remembered me, which was absolutely wonderful. And that's what put my foot in the door as far as playing drums. Then that brings me to, her brother, Bernard, being in the band.
Bernard. Boy, that boy's funky.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So Bernard being in the band, I went from playing with Gina straight to playing with Guy.
Yeah, but hang on to that. I got 4 pages of Guy right here. Let me ask you this one, because Guy, man, you killed that gig, man. That was hold on to it. Tell me about, okay, so your first gig was with Regina Bell,
playing drums, yes.
And so let me slide, since we're talking about credits, let me just read a few. His credits is like the who's who. Just go to any record store, like we should do a record store, and just fan through albums, and he's like in all of them. Okay, here's just a handful of credits. Faith Evans, Mickey Howard, Guy, Freddie Jackson, India Arie, Kenny Lattimore,
Yeah.
18 and Sunshine. Man, that must have been, you did that with like one hand probably. What I got here? Regina Bell, Taylor Dane. We can talk about
Yeah.
Rob Thomas,
Right.
D'Angelo. That's the one.
Yes.
What was you and him together? That must have been woo.
It was that band was incredible. Thank you, baby. That band was absolutely dreamy.
Dreamy. I like that one.
Because it was a dream come true to be to be performing with a pioneer. We're talking about a trailblazer, because D'Angelo put his stamp on neo soul, and that genre of music had never been the same since.
Tell me about getting the gig. We're talking about your credits. You did D'Angelo. What about Guy? How did you get that gig with Guy, and what was that relationship like with you and Teddy?
Oh man, I not only did I love working with Teddy, I loved working for Teddy. I have so much respect for that cat. His work ethic is unreal. I hadn't seen anybody with that work ethic in the music industry before. This is the type of cat that will do a marathon 40-hour recording session and not even blink.
I like it. Oh. Each and every time you are here with me, you give me with your hand. When you caress my skin, I'm under your command. Girl, you hypnotize me with your eyes. Took me some time, now I realize.
Let me ask you this while I got you, because all you saying is leading me up to that beast mode stuff. I got this beast mode right at the top here. Tell me about this gig, this Rob Thomas gig. Are you still doing that gig?
Absolutely.
Okay.
15 years and counting.
Oh, I thought you just got on that tour.
No, I started in 2005.
Okay, and you guys are on break now because of the whole pandemic thing?
Right. It's actually a little bit more than that. We're on break because of the pandemic, but mainly because this was supposed to be the year that Matchbox 20 was going to go out and do 20 cities celebrating Matchbox 20. Because initially what they were going to do is they were going to do it in 2016, because that would have been 20 cities celebrating 20 years of Matchbox 20, because they came out in 1996. Mm-hmm. But we were on tour. The solo band was on tour, and Rob was like, I'm not going to break off my solo tour just to go out and do a Matchbox tour. I'm not going to do that. So we continued our tour, and then they wanted to come out in 2020 and make it Matchbox 2020 kind of thing.
I got you.
So there's a strong chance that we would have been going out like maybe in 2021 or something. But now I don't know what's going to happen with that. That might actually be on hold because of everything getting pushed back. So we might end up getting pushed back to 2022. I'm not sure yet. Mm-hmm. It all remains to be seen. So in the meantime, I'm just, I'm biding my time, writing and producing, working on my project, working on tunes to submit for soundtracks and film scores and things like that, So I'm keeping it moving.
Tell me about endorsements. What endorsements are you doing, and do you want to give them a plug?
Absolutely. All of my companies are absolute favorites of mine. Woo. Okay. I endorse.
What are some of them?
I endorse Yamaha Drums and Hardware. My longest endorser has been Vic Firth.
Yeah.
I've been with them since '93, since the days of Levert and Gerald Levert.
Yeah.
All right. So I have Yamaha Drums and Hardware, Vic Firth sticks, Sabian cymbals, Evans drum heads, and I also have True Tuner accessories. I also have Porter and Davies electronics.
What are you doing on drum heads?
Evans.
You doing Evans?
Right.
Jim Dario. That's my guy
Right.
there. Jim
Oh, right
Dario.
on.
I think that dude is a
Right.
genius, man. Every time I'm around him, I just go, wow.
Absolutely.
Let me get, because I'm kind of rushing to get you to your appointment here. This is
Quite
the
all
one
right.
This is the one I've been kind of leading up to.
Okay.
You're a beast behind the. I hope you don't mind me saying that, but you, man, you power. No, forget about pocket and just your approach to the drums is like. You remember the? Now, I hope you laugh at this. You remember the Muppets? You remember Animal? It's like Animal, man. It's like, but it's not wild. You know, I won't say like the rock guys. It's not the. It's just. I saw you do the Arsenio Hall show, and I hope I can use that video. I saw you do the Arsenio Hall show with Guy, and you was having technical problems at the same time. You was trying to get stuff fixed. And I first saw you play at the Terrace Ballroom. I don't know if you was with Gina or not, but
that was probably Gina.
Y'all better watch this guy. For those of you who haven't seen him, pull some video up and watch his approach, power, and tell me, what did that come from your father and all of the drilling and all the stuff he did? What's with that beast mode stuff you got?
Well, first, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
It's humbling. It really is. I would say that a good portion of it came from my dad, because my dad would tell me things like, what you need to understand when you play is you need to play like it's going to be the last time that you ever sit behind a drum set ever again. Play like you are willing to leave everything on the bandstand.
Sure.
And and this is the kind of stuff that he would tell me. And then from there, hanging around Bernard Bell gave me some like hands-on incentive. His thing was like, look, when you bring it, I need you to bring all of it. Half of it ain't gonna do, and all of it is just gonna barely make it. So I need you to go above and beyond.
Are you holding up with that beast mode stuff? You've been doing it your whole life. Are you feeling anything back there yet, man? Are you like?
Well, it takes its toll, because it always takes its toll. There's a difference between being in lounge gig shape and being in world tour shape. And you have to. I mean, either way, you have to be prepared musically for whatever comes your way, but you also have to be prepared physically, because like I said before, I spend most of my time on the bandstand, leaving everything on the bandstand.
Yes, you
when
do,
I play.
Man.
I try to, it comes from the attitude that my professors gave me of take no prisoners. It comes from the attitude of take no names, don't carry pen and paper, because you ain't taking no names, kind of thing. And you just, and leave it all there. And like my dad said, like it's the last time that you are ever going to play. So, I would come off the bandstand dripping, soaking wet and everything too.
Yeah.
Cramping up, fingers locking up, having to get into the tub at the end, because I would treat it like athletics. I would treat it like it was a sport.
I saw you, man. I was right there watching it, and I always told myself, I talked to Jesus whenever I saw you play, and I said, Lord, I'm glad I ain't got to follow this guy. Blood everywhere, splinters everywhere. I'm glad I ain't got to follow this guy. Poor drum. Let me ask you this one, because we only got about 7-8 minutes left.
Sure.
Tell me about. Okay, here's the thing that we do on the show. It's called Words of Advice. What it basically is I asked the drummers if they will leave a parting word for the up-and-comer drummers that are trying to get traction in their career, trying to get a start in their career. What would you say to these guys, the up-and-comer guys?
Well, I have a lot to say to them, but I'm gonna keep it as brief as possible. The two main things that I would say, one of them, one of the main things I would say is 2 words: stay humble. Stay humble, because The minute you start feeling yourself, quote unquote, the minute you start acting like your stuff don't stink, and the minute you start acting like, you know, you putting your butt up on your shoulders and you're above and beyond everybody, that's when that Bible verse will kick in, you know, because where the Bible says, he who is exalted shall be humbled, and he who is humbled shall be exalted.
Woo.
You know, and that's what that's the advice. That's one of the things that I would say to cats. Stay humble, because in staying humble, you'll be able to catch everything that's going to come your way. When you start thinking that you're too above things, you're going to start missing a whole lot of stuff around you, and you might miss a lot of key things that could end up allowing you to lose gigs along the way. You know, speaking of which, I'm gonna add a third thing to it. Losing a gig, okay? There's something that I always carry with me, and I always say, if or when you lose, don't lose the lesson. Understand what it is. Understand what it is that you did to cause you to lose this gig, lose the studio session. You know, find out whether it was the fact that you showed up 15 minutes late, you know, and you've been doing that consistently for everything, for your gigs, for your lessons, for your, you know, for your recording sessions and all that other kind of stuff. You know, find out whether or not it was that. Find out whether or not it was your attitude when you went in there, whether or not you showed up on time. You know, find out what it is and understand how to eradicate that, because that becomes just as important as your playing.
Let me leave you with this last question.
Absolutely.
Black Lives Matter.
Of course they do.
Come on, what are you feeling about all this protests and this Black Lives Matter and this stuff that's going on out here?
Well, right now, my biggest concern as far as the Black Lives Matter movement is whether or not those folks are going to be safe as far as their protests are concerned. Because truthfully, I would like to see them around in November so that they can vote. You know, I would rather not have a lot of those people in the hospitals trying to recover, or a lot of those people 6 feet under who didn't recover. So I would love to see them remain safe and remain healthy so that we can get them to vote in November, because they're going to make a change. A lot of the youth, you know, they're going to be the ones that are going to make the changes. As far as Black Lives Matter, Black lives should have mattered a long time ago. Black lives mattered 400 years ago when we stepped off the slave ships. Black lives mattered even during Jim Crow. Black lives mattered even when they tried to tell us that they didn't matter by putting out movies like Birth of a Nation and things like that, by assassinating King and Brother Malcolm, you know, and Medgar Evers and all of those folks. Black lives still mattered, and they still continue to matter. As far as maybe on a side note, but a front note at the same time, I have a lot of people that will come to me and they will be sympathetic to the cause, but then turn around, and especially Caucasian folk. They'll be sympathetic to the cause and then turn around and ask me, what can we do to end racism in this country? And one of the main things that I would say to them, and this has been my consistent answer, asking me how to end racism is like asking the cat why the dog is barking. You see, ask the dog why the dog is barking. So if you want to end racism, you got to ask the people who developed it and curated it and marinated it and stewed in it and perpetuated it and used it as an oppressive tool. You got to ask those people how to end it. You know, if I was flipping burgers and you asked me how to flip a burger, I'd be able to tell you that. But I'm not the one oppressing people. I'm not the one hating on people. So I can't tell you how not to oppress a people, how not to hate a people. You got to ask the haters. how not to hate. You know, but what I'm hoping from all of this is that I'm hoping that people eventually do get the message and do understand how important it is to value Black lives. Understanding the history of what this country was built on should give you some level of understanding of that, some level of empathy about that, some level of sympathy, if you will, and some level of willingness to want to do something about it, to see to it that we change for the better, you know, to see to it that we don't have any more strange fruit hanging from trees, you know, to see to it that no one has a notion of separate water fountains ever again. You know, this is what we need to see to. And, you know, I guess until these days, until those days are numbered, folks need to keep marching until something's done.
Thank you so very much. I made it exactly at the time. Look at your clock. I made it right there.
That's amazing.
There. Thank you so much.
Well, you always had good time anyway, so.
Say that again?
You always had good timing anyway, so
man.
all right.
I tell you, around you, well, I don't know if you know, but I retired from drums years and years ago. But around you, even back then, I wouldn't have said I'm a drummer. I'd have said I'm a plumber or a carpenter or something. Not around you, boy. I'd have said, oh, man, I'm, you know, I lift this equipment, you know. Please say thank you so much for being on the show, man. I know you got to get out of here.
Man, thank you. You know what? In all the years, you know, because you and I are going on close to 35 years knowing each other, right? And I just want to tell you that I have admired your work for years. I admired your work behind the kit when you were with Snoop. I've admired your work from not behind the kit in all the things that in all the things that you've put forth. I remember one time you and I had a really long and in-depth conversation, and I could see and I could hear how much of a man of God you are and were in that conversation. And I appreciate that, and I respect that immensely. And I see that some things have not changed. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You know, and if they have changed, they change for the better. And I like that even more. So I want to thank you.
Oh, no. You know, we can get saucy here now. You got to get out of there. But it's like you said, man, you got to stay plugged into the vine. You know,
Indeed.
When you leave that vine, you leave your source of oxygen, of everything. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
And you start taking it upon yourself. Again, thank you so very much. Love you, man.
I love you back, baby. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
You help me wave bye to all the audience. We'll see
Peace,
y'all again.
y'all. Peace, y'all. Nothing but love. Stay positive, everybody. All right? We're going to get through this.
God bless, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, indeed. Love you, man.
Bye now.
Later.